So I'm glad I got to go to FanFest, but of course, like I told y'all, it rained as business as usual, man. I don't know what it is, but it feels like it always rains at FanFest. Now, if I was super superstitious, I would just think that would be another same old season for us, but I'm not going to let it rain on my parade. Regardless, this video, we're going to talk about some of the stuff I saw, man. I'm not going to go too heavy, too deep. I want to talk about just some different things that I was noticing, because y'all know how I typically do. I go to all the training camp practices, but this is the one and only time that I can lay my eyes on the team. So I'm not going to give you all the stuff. You probably saw most of the clips on the timeline. I'm going to give you some. I'm just going to give you some nuggets. So I'm going to really tell you what I saw, but I had a great time meeting up with everybody. Shout out to everybody out there that came up to me, hollered at me, dapped me up. We took some pictures. It's so cool to really hit the streets, man, and really get to meet up with y'all, because, like, for real, I'm just sitting here talking to a camera all the time. So when I actually get to see y'all, they actually watching me on the other side, man, it makes me feel good. And I never get used to it. I never get used to it, man. And shout out to everybody that was just kind of squinting at me like I was crazy, like they looked at me like I was familiar. And then they walked up on me and said something. It's always funny, man. And it's really cool to meet everybody. So shout out to everybody out there that I saw at FanFest, man. Much, much love. But the first thing that I really noticed when I was watching is the personnel. So right off the bat, they came out in empty personnel, empty formation. But the personnel wasn't 5 wide receivers. It was 2 tight ends, 1 running back, the rest wide receivers, 21 personnel. And I made that video. I told you guys about how they do the empty formation with Bryce and Dave Canales. Of course, I had to plug that in. The first play of FanFest, that's what they did. And the way that they did it and they spread the field is, I like the way they lined up. They put T-Mac and Chuba on the left side together. So Chuba was on the outside, T-Mac was on the inside. And this is another way that T-Mac can be utilized. And people want to talk about, oh, T-Mac hasn't really dominated camp or done anything like that. T-Mac commands a lot of attention. And the way Canales can do certain things to get matchups and allocate the defense towards him is going to be an asset, even on that first play. What they did is they ran Chuba on a 5-yard hitch route where he runs 5 yards and just stops and turn around. And they ran T-Mac on a slot fade, meaning that he's going to run a go route or a fade route from that slot. And what happened there is the corner saw T-Mac was in the slot. The linebacker who was over T-Mac was covering him, and there was a safety over the top. When T-Mac took off, all 3 of those guys went chasing after T-Mac, and little old Chuba Hubbard was wide open there for a hitch. He got a cool and easy first down. So pretty much just putting T-Mac in unusual spots, which is him and Chuba lined up on the same side, is a little bit different when you come out of the huddle with 2 tight ends and you end up seeing him over there and they have to react to that. That was just a way that you can utilize his presence to open up things for everybody else. Had they respected Chuba and stayed on Chuba, you're giving T-Mac an opportunity down the field one-on-one. But the fact that he was in a slot, there was a linebacker over him, everybody's like, oh, we have to help this guy as a linebacker because the linebacker can't cover T-Mac. So you just use him to generate more attention, to open up opportunities for everybody else. So I just love the way that they came out in empty formation, because shameless plug for me, I made a video about it, but also just seeing what they actually did with that. And I apologize, I said that wrong. I said 21 personnel, I meant 12. They had 1 running back, 2 tight ends. It was JT Sanders and actually Mitchell Evans out there starting off with the first group out there together. So I like what they did, man. I just mixing up the personnel, mixing up the formations, keeping the defense off balance, giving them a lot of things to account for. Another thing that I saw personnel-wise on the offensive side was, not really surprised, but Brady Christensen was left tackle number 2. Of course, Riash Neisman is the backup right tackle for Moton, but I just thought it was interesting. I don't think they really brought in anybody else to play tackle anyway, and obviously we know Chandler Zavala is hurt, so the interior, they have some other guys that they want to use on the interior as backups, but the preferred position, it looks like, for Brady, if all things were good, would be to put him as that swing tackle, even though he does have the versatility to play all 5 positions on the offensive line. So just something to notice there. On defense, personnel-wise, man, Nick Scott was out there with the first group, man. Nick Scott was out there as the first safety, not Damani Richardson. I was dumbfounded. I was shocked. I tweeted it out and people started going crazy. I don't know why. I know they're going to be rotating. They're talking about platoon, but to me, I'm not platooning my secondary. You could platoon that defensive line and mix it up and take people in and out, but I just feel like there's just certain things about substituting the secondary that can kind of get guys out of rhythm. When you're playing secondary and playing safety, you get to see the whole field. You get to see what formation they come out in. You got the communication that's been happening with that group. There's a couple of just things that go in the memory bank as you go in the game that you need to for future reference. So when you're rotating guys in there, that first guy may see some stuff that the second guy may not. You can talk and communicate on the sideline, of course. You have your huddles and break down stuff during the drives, but it's just something that's a little bit different about trying to platoon the secondary. So I'm not sure about that. But regardless, there were some guys out like Derek Brown and Nick Scorton, of course. And then J.C. Horn was on a very limited pitch count. I don't even think I even saw him out there at all. So Corey Thornton was out there. He's going to be the backup boundary corner, meaning the guy that plays the short side of the field. And it seems like Shamar Bartholomew is going to be the backup field corner, which would be Mike Jackson's backup, which plays the wide side of the field. And that's typically how we flip-flop our corners. JC always goes to the short side, Mike Jack to the wide side, of course. And so this is just something to note because this guy, Corey Thornton, is an undrafted free agent. He's 6'1", has some length. This guy has been getting a lot of credit and gas from the media. I personally am going to reserve my judgment until I get some game tape on him. I hear the reports. People are talking about him locking up T-Mac. I don't know about that. He's done a decent job of staying with him at times. But again, some of the clips I saw, he was having help over the top. So there's different techniques that you play. I just see him on the wrong side of too many highlights, like Jalen Coker smoking him in a one-on-one and then T-Mac catching the one-handed catch on him in the end zone. For me to just go ahead and crown him the way some people seem to be crowning him. I would love for an undrafted free agent to step up and be a factor, but I'm going to hold my judgment until I see some game tape, which unfortunately with our circumstances is going to have to be preseason because I trust my eyes, which is why I like going to training camp, but I can't this year. But just something to note, those were the guys that are the backup corners. It seems to be the backup corners as of right now. But some players that shine to me, of course, you've probably already seen it. Jimmy Horn Jr. had 2 touchdowns. I've told you guys, the way that they utilize him, man, there's going to be what they need to do. He was in a second group, of course. He didn't really get much burn with the ones, but they put him in a short motion and then motioned him out of the backfield. I thought it was a perfect play call and design in the red zone on the goal line for a play for like him. I'll probably break it down later on in this video when I talk about the scheme of some of the stuff that I saw out there. But using him and getting his speed on the perimeter, he had a great little easy dump off touchdown there. He was pretty much vacated, left alone in the end zone on his second touchdown. I don't know what the safety was doing, but he ended up making that catch for a touchdown. So Jimmy Horn Jr.'s speed is going to be a factor. He has a different size and skill set than anybody else we have in the room. So you have to respect him. And I've talked about it multiple times about him having a certain package. Even if you don't put him on traditional wide receiver type things, you can do creative type of play calls with him. And that's exactly what they did on the goal line in the red zone with Jimmy Horn Jr. Next up, Xavier Legette. Now, this is a complicated matter. It's a long story. I know some of you have probably seen the drop that's been debated. They ended up being more so of pass interference. But I want to talk about first the slant, because we never really got to see much yak from Excel. I think he had a reception versus the Bengals, a Raiders when he hit the sideline. We saw some bursts, but he looked super fast. The change of speed that he had when the ball touched his hands to split the secondary and get home. Dave Canales talked about some bad angles. I know he did get touched by, I don't know who the linebacker was. It might have been Roseboom. They actually touched him. That probably would have made a tackle in the game, but it definitely would have been interesting. But to see the surge that he had once the ball touched his hands is just what the doctor ordered. And it was a great play call by Canales as well. You run a smash concept, meaning that him and Mitchell Evans were on the same side. Mitchell Evans ran a corner route that went deeper, and Xavier Legette was underneath. Both defenders went deep and played off and went towards Mitchell Evans, leaving Xavier Legette wide open. Bryce hit him right in stride, and he was able to get busy. That's the thing. He caught it with his body, but if you can get it in stride and get it on the move, I don't really care how it is, especially when you ending the game ending the play with the punctuation. But I think what people are sleeping on that play where he was a quote-unquote drop is the route. The stutter and go is deadly. He already caught J.C. Horn slipping with it earlier in camp, hit Mike Jackson with the same thing. Bryce, unfortunately, had to scramble off the spot. There was some DJ Wanham pressure off that backside. But I think Bryce threw it a little bit inside, but at the same time, Xavier Legette got held for one. But two, there's some also, I think, and I've said it before, when certain players get in the doghouse, nothing they do is right in anybody's eyes, because he won on the outside. Had Bryce been able to put it and leave it more on the outside, Xavier Legette can just run under it and run straight to the back of the end zone. It went a little bit inside, so Legette had to adjust and go inside, and that's what gave Mike Jackson a chance to actually recover. It was a great recovery speed by him, but the fact that it was inside also shortened that distance that Mike Jackson had to recover on, and he can get there. Not putting full blame on Bryce, because that was a tough throw to make on the run, and you can't really ask much more than that. And people are saying that a good receiver would have came up with it, and I can't disagree. Now, I looked at multiple opportunities. People are saying like he should have went up with his hands and caught it full extension. It probably would have not allowed Mike Jackson to be able to get involved if you go ahead and get your hands up early and elevate for it instead of letting it come down. And I agree, because you've seen multiple opportunities, even against us. If you go back to the post play that DJ Moore caught a touchdown against us, he had a similar play, and DJ Moore is a body catcher as well, but DJ Moore also elevates and catches the ball at the highest point. Mike Jackson was in the same position on a post route. DJ Moore put his body up in the air in between the ball and Mike Jackson. Mike Jackson was not able to hold him down. DJ Moore was strong enough to elevate and play through the contact, caught the ball, scored a touchdown. If DJ Moore can do that, I know Xavier Legette at 220 pounds is strong enough to do the same thing to Mike Jackson. So there's just certain little things that Legette is going to have to progress on to high point. We've seen him high point passes in college. So he just has to start being more confident and trustworthy and thinking about high pointing on certain plays like that when, hey, the ball's not the best. Let me go ahead and go up in the air. That way the defenders can't play with me because, hey, I am a big body wide receiver, and just lean more into that size. So it's not a drop, but I do think that he could have done a little bit more to come up with the play. I do think it could have been a better pass as well. But regardless, hell of a move, hell of a route. Shout out to Xavier Legette with that yak as well. Another thing that people aren't talking about at all is what Austin Corbett did. It's like people are forgetting that there's a center battle. And I know a lot of times we're not in pads and it's not sexy and whatever, but Austin Corbett looked great to me that night. Getting to the second level, getting movement at the point of attack. The run game was very consistent between Chuba and Rico. And I was looking at Austin Corbett in some of my clips that I had, and you can see him consistently getting to the linebackers, consistently getting the defensive line in front of him, turned and moved off the spot, getting pushed upfield on the interior. I think he has the inside track to get this starting position. I don't know how long they drag it out, but I think it probably goes up to that week 1 depth chart, but I expect him to be first on the depth chart that comes out soon and very soon since it's game week. But I also think he may have that inside track because from what all we've heard, he's been the first man up off the bench in terms of playing center. So I think that Austin Corbett had a phenomenal night. I was looking at that because what I did, I tried my best to record every clip that I could, and then I went back and looked at every player on the replay and saw what was going on. In terms of T-Mac, there's been some people saying that he got locked up and shut down and he didn't have a great night. He struggled at times. You could sort of see him move, but it was cool to lay eyes on your first round draft pick, seeing a guy that big move that smooth out there. He did have a couple short catches. There was a play that some people on the beat were calling a drop when it was really just a pass breakup by Corey Thornton. And the reason why it was a pass breakup is because Bryce threw it behind him. When you throw it behind him, you give the defender a chance to make a play, and it's going to pad his stats. If you actually look at what happened, T-Mac beat him off press coverage because people talk about him not getting being pressed. He got separation in one and got his body in position on the inside. It was double slants. It was him and Legette. And the safety jumped on Legette, and so it was supposed to go to T-Mac. And he didn't have to put it behind T-Mac. He might have put it behind T-Mac because he thought that the safety was going to come downhill and he wasn't trying to lead him in front of the safety. So I get the idea, but it was a little bit of a misread by Bryce. He should have put it just right on his chest. It would have been fine. He would have caught it, maybe split it and got a little bit more afield. But at worst, he would have caught it and probably moved the sticks in that scenario. But shout out to Corey Thornton for being there, making a play. But I don't want to get it twisted. T-Mac actually was doing his thing and he won there. He wasn't just dominating or whatever, but he was holding his own. He wasn't just getting overwhelmed like the narrative I've seen being pushed. He had one route that he ended up slipping on that Bryce kind of put on the money. He just kind of slipped and fell on that one though. But I did love seeing that he played with the physicality. If you watch him run the route, at the top of the route, he completely just, like I said, pulled a Mike Evans and pushed the cornerback to create space. That's what they want to get him into, to start using his size more because it's an advantage to overwhelm defenders. So he really just ran a curl route, ran up to the guy, stopped, pushed him out of the way, and came back on the break to come back for the ball. He just slipped out of his break. So it was wet out there, of course, because of the rain, but just T-Mac being physical, getting used to playing and leaning more into that size. That's what the little things that I want to see that I think are getting overshadowed. That's the progress you want to see. I'm not worried about T-Mac in normal conditions doing all the other good stuff, but seeing him beat the press and get inside on a slant route, seeing how he's utilized commanding that attention, seeing him push off and being physical in his routes, that's the little stuff that we want to see him progress on, that I knew that they wanted him to work on. All the other stuff, I'm confident in his God-given ability to do that, but I saw what I needed to see from T-Mac, even though it wasn't the most uber productive night that I would have loved to happen from him. And I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Lathan Ransom. He had a big hit on a post. I didn't record it. I saw somebody else post it. I just completely missed it during practice because there was a lot going on out there with me going on, because I was kind of, I was sitting lower. They told me to move back to my seat and I was moving, and then there was just a lot going on. But it was a great hit. He caught somebody slipping in the air. And it was just really a hard hit by the rookie who tries to hit something. You know what I'm saying? Like he ain't scared. He gonna hit something. And he even got him a little fake punt where he looked pretty smooth in open field. Jimmy Horn, he got caught slipping on the fake, so he kind of springed the big play. But Jimmy Horn ended up making that play at the 1 yard line. But seeing Lathan Ransom on that fake punt was funny to me, man. But it's just cool to see him as, I guess he's a personal protector on punt team for there. So he's going to have his opportunities on special teams, of course. And this guy likes to run and hit. The physicality is there. He is unafraid. So I'm liking what I saw from Lathan in the one little flash, couple of flashes, that I saw overall there. Then also, there was an almost play that was amazing. I think it was TJ Luther or it was Kobe Hudson, one of the two, where he almost snagged it over somebody's head. He just couldn't pull it in on a post route, man. It was really a really cool play, but it is what it is. Like I said, the running game looked great. We got a good push in the middle. I'm curious to see how they continue to do that. We saw multiple plays where Chuba and Rico were on the same field. It's field at the same time, so that was cool to see. But in terms of scheme, I like what Canales was able to do out there mixing things up. Again, I told you about the Jimmy Horn play. So what they lined up is put Jimmy on the right and they had Jalen Coker on the left in tight formation. And what you typically do sometimes is you do a play action fake and then you run a guy across the formation, leak him out of the backfield. They call it a naked boot because you call it naked because you don't have protection typically. You let that defensive end come upfield, you draw him out there, and then you kind of do something behind him. What Canales decided to do is he got Jalen Coker to crack the defensive end. And then once you crack the defensive end, you already have outside leverage for the quarterback to go ahead and boot to the left. And Jimmy Horn, he came in motion and stopped on the right side. But once the ball snapped, he immediately ran across the formation. So as Jimmy Horn came across the formation, Jalen Coker cracked the defensive end. And then, of course, with Jalen Coker running inside, the cornerback that's guarding Jalen Coker thought it was a slant route. So he's watching Jalen Coker up, and then you see as soon as he lets his guard down, you see Jimmy Horn Jr. coming across the formation, and by the time they notice what's going on, it's way too late, and Jimmy Horn is dancing in the end zone. Yes, Lord. So that was just a brilliant design by Dave Canales. I've never seen a rendition like that where the only receiver on that side cracks the defensive end and then gets things popping. But I love the way that he designed that there. I already talked about the T-Mac slot fade out of empty. That was pretty dope. I talked about Xavier Legette on that little nice design where they pretty much created opportunity underneath for him to get yards after catch with the confusion it caused. So I just think there was some nice schemes going on there. On the defensive side of the ball, I thought Ejiro cooked up some really nice blitzes. I saw Trevin Wallace get in there a few times coming off the edge where they just sent too many people or guys were sprung free because of design, whether it's putting your middle linebacker, like I said, Trevin Wallace on the edge to get there. He got there very, very quickly, just ran past the quarterback, obviously didn't hit him. But I just thought that there was opportunity being created because of some of the blitzes that Ejiro was able to do. And if Trevin Wallace, he seems to be, I've heard from the beat that he's been making plays on blitzes as well. This was something that he did well in college that last year it just seemed like he was lost. It seemed like when he tried to blitz, if he didn't like sneak and come free, he wasn't going to make a play. It seemed like as soon as the running back actually identified him as a blitzer, he just kind of stopped and gave him like, oh, you got me. You got to try to get you next time. He didn't even really try to like make a move or get past people. But now he looks a little bit quicker, looks a little bit more spry. He looks a little bit more determined, and the motor is a little bit hotter getting to the quarterback. He said himself on Cart Talk that he was like 250 something last year, but now he's in the mid to low 240s, and you can tell he's moving a lot better, moving faster. Hey, man, if he can get those instincts down and start processing stuff faster and better once we get out there, I'm excited for a potential year 2 jump, and Lord knows the streets need it for Trevin Wallace to step up big time for this defense to be halfway decent that we need it to be. But I thought Ejiro did a pretty solid job with some of those blitzes up front. I thought we platooned our D-line pretty good as well. Cam Jackson made some stops in the run game himself. Bobby Brown was getting around there, getting to the quarterback at times as well, slipping there. And again, Derek Brown was not practicing, so that left a lot of opportunity for the depth to really get involved. I saw Turk Wharton and Rob Hunt really, really battling it out. Turk Wharton is very, very fast with his hands. I know doesn't have the ideal length, but if you see him coming out of his stance, he almost always gets his hands on the offensive lineman first. And when you can get your hands there first, especially inside, it helps you control it. And he's very, very good and violent with his hands. I understand how he's able to kind of get away with being a smaller D lineman on the inside, but still be able to hold his own. And that just really was cool seeing him and Rob Hunt battle on the inside there. But overall, man, FanFest was okay, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm missing going to training camp, and with us not being able to see practice, we can go ahead and simulate to the regular season at this point. I'm tripping on no preseason. It's going to be fun to see them play in preseason, of course, because we got a lot of depth that I want to see. But not being able to see them in practice on a day-to-day basis in person, it makes me want to simulate to the season already, man. Let's go ahead and get this thing over with. I'm excited for week 1 to get to Jacksonville, man. I'm ready for this game to compete when it really, really counts and really, really matters. I've seen enough to hold me over, but I need it to start soon and very soon. Soon and very soon, right? Because I love what they did for FanFest. I love seeing everybody. I love the fireworks, love the practice, but it ain't the same. We want some real football. So this is just an appetizer. Let's go ahead and get to the real thing. But you guys, let me know what you thought about FanFest. What do you think stuck out the most to you about what I talked about here in this video? If you have any other questions about what happened, I can answer as best as possible based off the observations I saw, but I tried to give you the hot topics from my point of view. Y'all know how to give a little film and scheme talk in the video, so I tried to do that as best I could in this one, but I want to get you guys' thoughts and questions if you have any. But we're going to be all top of everything else as we lead up to the season. My name is Aaron Duncan with the Necessary Bluntness. I'll see you next time. Peace.